He getting worship in the heavens by the angels. Hallelujah, hallelujah. He feed the birds of the heaven, he'll feed you. When you was broke, he paid your bills when they was overdue. I put my trust in God, y'all be believing you. I put my trust in God, cause he'll see it through. I trust in God cause he delivered me from addiction. I was sick in my sin, his love is my prescription. What kind of man forgives killers at his crucifixion? So I had to die to myself, I guess it's the benediction. My trust in God remove me from the devil's jurisdiction. You say you trust him, but you're stressing, that's a contradiction. If faith's your gun, trust is your ammunition. Be a vicious of men is the greatest commission. You put the trust in tradition and have you out of position. With your trust in him, the solid above the opposition.
Hey guys, it's your girl Latoya Renee, and you're tuning into Sister Can We Talk. This show is an empowerment show that allows us to share each other's testimonies, to build each other's faith, so we can believe in the impossible. I know that sometimes God can leave us into a moment where we can allow fear to grip us and make us feel like we can't do anything. But it's with God that everything is possible. So with that being said, I would like to welcome our guest for today's show, Dr. Kenya J. Miller.
Hello. I hope you don't mind me putting my hand on my arm on this pillow like this.
I am so excited that you have agreed to do this show. I am so excited that you're here. Today's going to be amazing. I can already feel it in my shanana. Hello, Jesus.
Hello, Jesus. Hello.
Your story, your testimony is a story of transformation.
Yes.
And a lot of us go through transformation. Mm-hmm. And so tell us about your testimony. Start off when you was a kid.
Well, when I was a child, I grew up in an abusive home. Mm-hmm. My father was extremely abusive. And so growing up in an abusive home, you develop a level of fear because you don't want to do anything that's going to cause the atmosphere to be disruptive in a sense.
Right.
You know, my mother was a woman of God, powerful woman of God. But my father, he was extremely abusive. And many nights I would go to bed with hearing sounds of screaming from the living room, my mother's room, where my father would be pounding on my mother's face, you know, where my mom would have to wear sunglasses and, you know, blood would be coming from her face. Right. And, you know, as a child to be called out of your name, you know, the B word and the H word. And
how did that make you feel? Like, you know, as a kid, you really, you know, you're innocent. So you know, you don't know, you know, say, did you feel like your father was being abusive towards you, or, you know?
No, I was more so concerned about my mother because she was our mother, you know, and you want to protect your mother, you know, and you love your mother. Yeah. And my dad was 6'3".
Wow.
And my mom was 5'2". So you can imagine the scenario or the view of how we would see it. It was like this giant person beating up on this little tiny person, you know, and so his fist covered half of her face,
right?
You know, and so as a child, and I was more concerned with my mother than anything. I just cared more for her, not even about myself.
I was going to ask you, was he ever abusive towards you?
He was abusive towards me. I remember the time where I got hit with the belt buckle and it busted my head wide open. Wow. And you saw blood everywhere. Blood was just everywhere. And it was because he had a typewriter.
Yeah.
And I think it was myself or my cousin. We bothered the typewriter. Because we were kids. Yeah. And we just wanted to play.
Yeah.
And he just, don't touch anything of his, you know, don't bother it. And I bothered the typewriter because I wanted to type.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had 2 bathrooms. We had 2 full bathrooms because in Brooklyn, New York, you live in apartments. And so we had a huge apartment, 3 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, a foyer, living room, kitchen. It was huge. And so he locked me in one of the smaller bathrooms.
Wow.
And began to beat me with a brass belt buckle.
Wow.
Busted my head. And I can remember my mother coming in and putting my head under the tub and the blood running out in the tub. I can remember because she was trying to wash the blood out of my hair. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and a couple of other very abusive incidents where my dad hit me and I hit my head on the side of the railing of the bed. The metal post of the bed to hold the bed frames
Right,
together.
yeah.
Well, I hit my head on the side of that. At that time it was metal, and I fell unconscious.
Wow.
And so when I came to, I was at my aunt's house because from what I understood, my mother grabbed us up
Yeah.
and ran to my aunt's house,
Yeah.
which was really up, it was up the block.
Yeah.
We were always running to my aunt's house. You know, you had one aunt, you had us living at 450, and then you had my aunt living at 430,
Yeah.
and then she moved from 430 to 475, you know, so we were running up the block and then we were running down the block.
Right.
Either way, we were in the middle, you know, so either way, we wound up at my aunt's house,
Right.
you know, it's like,
Right.
oh, we're here again, you know. So yeah, and it was at that point where when I woke up from being unconscious is when I always knew I was angry with my father,
Yeah.
but it was right then and there where I wanted to kill him. I wanted to kill him right there.
How old was you?
I must have been probably about 10 or 11 years old.
Wow.
Maybe 10 or 11, no more than, I would have to say no more than 13. It was there where I wanted to just kill him.
Yeah.
And I remember getting up, and I remember my uncle was there, my aunts were there, and I remember getting up, and I probably was about 12, and I ran to my aunt's kitchen and I grabbed a knife. And I said, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him. I'm going to kill him at that age.
Yeah.
And I can remember my mom saying, no, you can't kill him because you can't go to jail.
Yeah.
You can't go to jail. You can't go to jail.
Yeah.
You can't kill him. It was at that moment where I just wanted to kill him.
Yeah. I remember in our conversation you were saying that even though he was abusive towards you and your mother, you was the only one that would sit on his lap and be around him.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Well, I knew that my dad, there was something in me that knew that my dad was suffering a level of pain that was indescribable. There was something in me that felt sorry for him. And I didn't know what it was, but there was something in me that even though I wanted to kill him, he was still my father. Because my mother, she always told us, don't ever talk bad about him.
Right.
Because he gave you life.
Right.
It wasn't that I wanted to be here, but I mean, he gave me life. And, you know, so she admonished us not to ever say anything negative about him. She never spoke negatively about him. She never said anything bad about him.
You know, you said a quote. You was like, I was a child who needed love.
I did. I needed the love, but I knew that the only person I could get it from was my father.
Right.
And I had saw something in him that I knew he needed, but I knew I also needed.
Yes.
Which was love.
Yes.
Because I was the middle child.
Yes.
And being the middle child, you are neglected a lot as the middle child because the attention is so on the first children and
Or
then
the
second
last,
children,
right.
that the middle child doesn't really get as much attention as the middle child needed. And so because there was something in my dad that I saw that nobody else saw, I knew what I needed. So I made up for that. I was like, well, I know I need attention, so I'm going to get it from the person that's abusing me.
Yes.
Wow. That's something right there.
Right.
You know, and so I gravitated towards my dad, you know, and I was basically the only one that could be around him and tolerate even his level of abuse.
Right.
It was amazing where, and I think I won favor with my dad because everyone else was so afraid of him.
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid of him. I just wanted to kill him. It's a difference.
Wow,
There's a difference. I wasn't afraid of him. I just wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not afraid of somebody you want to kill, basically.
Yeah.
Because you know in your mind you have a backup plan.
Yeah.
If you do something to me, I already know what I'm gonna do to you. You know, if you cross me, I already know what I'm gonna do to you.
Right.
So I wasn't afraid of him. I had to get him to a place where I was able to say, I'm gonna kill you without him punching me in my face.
Wow. Wow.
You see?
You was talking about how your dad became a pastor.
Yes, he did.
And he eventually kind of stopped the abuse a little bit.
He stopped the abuse, even though in the early stages of his pastoralship, he was still abusive. You know, because we all go through God transitions us, and we go through the process of deliverance.
Right.
And he did eventually stop the abuse. And I mean, there were times where we would be in church and get beat in the back of the church. Literally. You know.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And had to go out and sing.
Okay. So. Okay. So you guys are getting beat in the back of the church. Where is everybody, Lord?
In the church.
Like no one knew.
Nobody knew.
Wow.
No one knew.
Wow.
Yeah, no one knew.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I would sing like a mockingbird. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have to put on that
Yeah,
face.
you knew that you were. It's not putting on a face. It was what you just had to do.
Right.
You just know that this was your responsibility, and you did it, and you just didn't let what happened got in the way of what you know you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always wanted, when I forgot to ask you this question when we was talking.
Mm-hmm.
Your relationship with your dad, did that mess up or dictate the relationship that you have with guys?
I don't want to say, I never equated it to that.
Mm-hmm.
I never equated it to my dad was abusive, so I don't like men.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of my friends, 90% of my friends are guys.
Mm-hmm.
I get along better with men than I do women.
I think a lot of people do.
Sister, can we talk?
All right.
Sister, can we talk? And, you know, I get along better with men than I do with women. And I never equated my lifestyle. I never compared the two.
Right.
I never said my dad was abusive, so I'm going to.
Right. Right.
I never did that.
Right.
I was never afraid of men.
Right.
No, so I can't say that that had anything to do with my
Right.
choice of lifestyle.
Yeah.
I
Talk
never thought it.
about because in our conversation you said that you was in church, but then when you hit 18 and you was like,
I don't want to see no church.
I'm not going there.
Peace out. Gotta go. Deuces.
And why was that? Why? Because some people, like for me, we grew up in church Monday,
Right.
Tuesday,
Wednesday,
Thursday,
7
Friday, 2
whole
churches.
days.
And so when
Yeah.
I got old, I was like, you know what? I done saw all the church I want to see.
Mhm.
Was that like that for you, or
No, I think I was more angry with God
Mhm.
than anything.
why was that?
I was angry with him because I wanted him to save me,
Yeah.
and he wouldn't.
Mm.
And I can remember, I must have been about 14 years old. I can remember praying to the Lord, and I had on these white stockings, and I got on my knees, and I just started praying in church, and I was like, Lord, save me, save me, save me, save me. Lord, just save me. I just need you to save me.
Mhm.
And he did it.
Right.
And I think it was at that point where I just became angry with him, and I just didn't want anything else to do with him.
Wow.
I didn't want to serve him at all because to me
Wow.
he was a very mean God. He was mean to me. Yeah. And I didn't want to serve anybody mean because I had grown up with a mean father.
Yeah.
So why would I want to serve somebody who's mean?
Wow.
You neglected me. You're not even coming to my rescue.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So.
I can remember crying. I can remember praying so until I pierced my knee with a nail. I pierced my knee with a nail, and when I got up, I had all this blood on my leg coming
Yeah.
down because I was praying so hard
Yeah.
that I wanted the Lord to save me.
Right.
I want you to save me. Because it was like my sisters were saved, my brothers were saved, and they were fine. But
Yeah.
I need you to save me.
Yeah.
Why are they saved and
And
I'm
not
not
me,
saved?
right.
What's wrong with me? Why is it that I got neglected in the home, and now I'm coming to you and everybody else is speaking in tongues,
Yeah.
and everybody else is shouting,
Yeah.
but you won't save me.
Yeah.
So what's the matter with me?
Yeah.
So I was very angry with him, and I didn't want to serve him, and I didn't.
So did that mentality, that way of thinking, turned you to the streets?
It turned me to Buddha.
Talk about
It turned
that.
me to witchcraft.
Talk about that.
Because I wanted the experience of what I saw my mom, my sisters, my brother.
Oh.
Like, why would I serve a God that didn't want me?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to a God that wants me.
Wow.
And I'm going to go to a God that, because every one of us has this void in our life for a divine, for a spiritual encounter.
Yes.
That's because we were born, we were made in the image and likeness of God.
Right.
We were spirit man first.
Right.
So we desire that mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Who are we going to serve?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't want me. I'll go to Buddha. You don't want me, I'll get me a spiritualist. I'll do witchcraft. You know, so yes, it ran me away from God. I didn't want anything to do with him.
Wow.
At all.
Wow.
He was not my first choice.
Wow.
My second choice or my third.
Come on.
I didn't want anything to do with him.
Wow.
Because you rejected me.
So in that area where you was serving other gods, how was your life like?
To me, it was grand. Yeah, I had everything I wanted. I had everything I needed. I had put it like this. My meditation, I did TM, Transcendental Meditation, right? I learned TM through Transcendental Meditation, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? I learned my meditation through transcendenting.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, when I became a Christian or when I met the Lord and, it was like, meditate upon the Lord. It's like, oh, well, that's easy.
Right.
I already know how to meditate.
Yeah.
I can meditate looking at you.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, it would, that's easy because in Buddha you meditate. You bang and you meditate. You meditate,
Yeah.
So, I had to learn how not to cross in a sense. Because
Let's before we get started with that, let's talk about how you came to the Lord.
how I came to the Lord.
Yeah. Talk about that time.
Lord Jesus. Woo! How he drew me. Lord! He had the ultimate fishing pole. Reel me in. You know how to reel you in. I was a drug dealer. I sold drugs. I was strung out on crack cocaine. I had wound up smoking my own products. I would open up places like in Tarrytown and Brooklyn. I had my own little spots. But then I was also a homosexual. And so my girlfriend and I we had a business, and we would go up north, like more like I want to say north, but more like in the Tarrytown area of New York. Because Brooklyn was sold up with their different areas, and so we decided we was going to go up to the Tarrytown area and take that area with drugs. And so what happened was I met this guy. And I wasn't into guys, because I was a homosexual. Right. I had just gotten out of prison, out of jail, and I met this guy, and all I knew was his name was Pop.
Pop.
That's all I know. And I knew him for every bit of maybe 2 weeks, maybe not even 2 weeks. And he said to me one day, he said, you want to go with me to pick up some money? Right? So when you tell me that you're going to pick up some money,
I'm thinking
we're going to pick up. You're not saying, well, we're going to go to my job.
Yeah.
My language and my understanding of going to pick up money was we're going to pick up some money that we made off the streets, right?
Right.
So he asked me, he said, would you want to come with me to pick up some money? And I said, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And I remember his brother in the back. I think his name was James. And, we was smoking blunts and cigarettes and drinking. But this guy, Pop, wasn't.
Right.
He was driving. So I'm sitting in the front seat, and I'm like, yeah, let's go. And he picks me up on Kingston and Fulton Street in Brooklyn. And when he picks me up, we go to Queens. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. This is all right. And we stop in front of a church. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Because it's been years since I've been in church.
Yeah.
I'm like, So he pulls up to the church. He's like, and he says, oh, I forgot to tell you, I'm a musician for the church, and I play for conferences and revivals, and yeah, I'm going to this church to pick up some money. They owe me from a revival that I did, so I'm going to pick up some money.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right,
I'll wait in the car.
I'll wait in the car. That's exactly what I did. It was the month of September. I'll wait in the car. I'll just sit here and wait in the car. And I'm carrying on, turning up, drinking, smoking, acting crazy with James in the back. And he comes back up. He comes back out maybe like a half an hour later. And he's like, you ain't going to believe this. I'm looking at him like, try me.
Right.
And he's like, you ain't going to believe this. And I'm like, what? He's like, that musician, he's laughing. That musician didn't show up. And I'm like, and what that got to do with me?
Right.
What they got to do with me? He said, they want me to play. And I said, oh, okay. Just so happened the Lord made it very cold that day. It was a very cold September day. Right. And I was like, okay. He's like, so what y'all gonna do? Y'all gonna sit out here and freeze, or y'all coming into church? And I was like, yeah, And Jason's like, yo, I'm going in. You coming in, Kitty? Because my name was Kitty.
Yeah.
And some people will call me Kay.
Yeah.
Kitty or Kay. And I said, well, I guess I'll go in because y'all going to turn the car off and it's going to be cold and I'm not freezing because I don't like the cold anyway. So I go inside of the church and it's this man in all black. The place is crowded. It's a man in all black. I'm like, well, I'm going to sit in the back because I ain't with all of this stuff because I don't serve this God. This is the God I don't serve. I'm not all of this stuff that's going on. Give me some cow shells. I'll do that. Give me a baby doll. I'll burn the baby doll. I'll go to the beach. I'll go to the beach and get beach water. I'll do that. I'll burn incense and I'll burn candles and I'll get I'll do that. But this here I don't do. I'm not doing this. And I went in the church and I sat in the back and lo and behold, the man called me out. Everybody that was there, besides you in the back. Yeah. Why is he screaming at me? Come here. I want to do a miracle in your life. And I'm like, you want to do a miracle in everybody's life? I'm not mine.
Right.
I've seen all the stuff I'm going to see.
Yeah.
And I just obeyed. And I went up to the front and I prayed. And with him, he prayed for me. And then I went back to my chair. And when I went back to my seat, he says, the Lord said for you to stand up and turn around 3 times. And this is how come I'm so into prophetic gestures. Yeah. And when I turned around 3 times, he said, the Lord said that if you turn around 3 times, he's going to change your whole life. And out of obedience, I did it. Right. And when I turned around 3 times and I sat down, I began to speak in tongues. Wow. And it wasn't like I wasn't all over the place. It was just very quietly. It was just like I couldn't believe it. Right. And I was like, oh, snap. Right. This is real. Right. And when it was all over, I felt so light. Like,
let me stop you right there because you was 30.
I was 30 years old.
Because a lot of us think that, I'm getting up in age in my time or whatever. You was 30 years old.
30 years old. Yeah. I was 30 years old.
You lived the whole life before. You was 30 years old.
30 years old. I was 30 years old. And it's never too late. Yes. You can never, time, God is time. Yes. And, when it's his time and when he's ready, I wouldn't even, because I often hear people say, when you're ready. When you're ready. Yeah. Well, I was ready at 14. Yes. I was ready when my dad was beating me in my face. Right. I was ready. I cried out to God. Yeah. When I was a little girl. Yeah. I mean, everybody else cried out the same way I cried out. Yes. And he saved them. So, is it really when I'm ready? Or was it when he's ready? Ooh. I mean, what's up with that? Yes. And so, I found out that in the church, we put pressure on people where pressure can't even be applied. And not only can it not be applied, it can't be measured. And I mean, I'm sure Peter wasn't ready for Jesus when he found him. Right. And so there's this, the way my mind thinks and the experiences that I've had in the church, it brings me from and out of cliche.
Talk about that.
Because I had to work with God. Yes. Right? And it was like the Lord will allow us to develop testimonials.
Come on, yes.
To reach the people that he needs us to reach. Yes. And it wasn't until I got raped by a gang. I got raped by a gang. Then I got raped twice. I got raped twice. Yeah. I got raped by multiple men. Yeah. And then I got raped by my best friend. But if I didn't get raped, I wouldn't know how to talk to somebody who got raped.
Right.
You know, if I would have never was on crack cocaine,
right,
I wouldn't know how to minister to somebody who's on crack cocaine.
Yes.
If I was never a homosexual,
yes,
I would not know how to minister to someone who's struggling with the same sex.
Yes.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't have. I had never been abused.
Yes.
I would never know what it's like to minister to somebody who has been abused. If I was never facing depression and Prozac, preaching on Prozac, I would never know how to minister to somebody who is depressed.
Yes. It's funny because, like, in that moment when you was 14, you was like, Lord, please save me.
Save me.
But he was like, no, I need you to help save
others.
I need you to help save others. So I need you to go through all of this. I know it's going to be hard for you.
It's going to be hard.
And I know that it's going to be trying for you, but there's a purpose on your life. For you. And your purpose is to save these people.
Absolutely.
Come on, Jesus.
And you're the only one that I know that can endure what you're about to endure.
Yes.
You're the only one.
Yes.
You're the only one. I wouldn't know how to minister to somebody who was in witchcraft.
Yes.
Who was serving Buddha. Yes. Who was doing transcendental meditation. Yes. You go to the beach and get beach water and burn it all and burn pictures and burn fire. I wouldn't know how to burn incense and hit and swat. Yes. I wouldn't know how to minister to someone and say, I've been there. Yes. I've been in a state of transcendental meditation. I've been in a state of meditation. I've been in those other religions. I'm telling you who works.
Yes. Come on, Dr. Kenya.
I'm telling you, I've had those encounters where I've been lost in abyss.
Yes.
I know who works.
Yes. Come on.
You understand?
Yes.
If I didn't allow the Lord to take me through, to give me an understanding of why He didn't save me when I wanted to be saved.
Yes.
Then I probably would have died a long time ago. When I committed suicide and died, the Holy Spirit, I didn't know.
Hold on, wait a minute, I missed that. Say that again.
I committed suicide, I overdosed.
Hallelujah. He feed the birds of the heaven, He'll feed you. When you was broke, He paid your bills when they was overdue. I put my trust in God, y'all be believing you. I put my trust in God, cause He'll see you through. I trust in God cause He delivered me from addiction. I was sick in my sin, His love is my prescription. What kind of man forgive His killers at His crucifixion? So I had to die to myself, I guess it's the benediction. My trust in God remove me from the devil's jurisdiction. You say you trust Him, but you're stressing, that's a contradiction. If faith's your gun, trust is your ammunition. Be a vision of men is the greatest commission. You put your trust in tradition and have you out of position. When your trust in Him is solid,